Just in the nick of time.
Can you hear and everything? Yeah.
Are we live?
Yeah, I thought I was going to have to tie off against myself, which would have been interesting. It's funny in the weeks when you're not here, when I just tie by myself, people always say Tom wins this week.
Oh my.
Oh, sorry.
So here we are again. And
yes, here we
are.
are.
We're on Wednesday, folks, because Tim has been busy wowing the crowds at the various fly fishing shows and traveling all around, and so in order to work it into their very busy schedule, we are tying on Wednesday.
Yeah, a little different.
Yeah, and it's a full moon, so something weird will probably happen.
What do you think? I imagine. Yeah, weird day all the way around.
Yeah. I hope all you other tires there are not having as weird a day as we are. It's a crazy day. It's a crazy day.
Crazy.
I see people are coming in from Pennsylvania and Texas and Michigan and California, the Mississippi Gulf Coast, Sweden, there, and Montreal, and another Sweden. Wow. International audience today. And Mexico, and Montana, and Long Island. That's a foreign country, right?
I'm not going to go there. I live too close.
Anyway, here we are, and Tim, this CDC and Elk is one of your favorite patterns, and I think it was my choice this week, but I wanted to tie a fly with CDC since we did a podcast recently on CDC, and so want to talk about this is a kind of a different use of it.
Yeah, for the body as opposed to any kind of wing, and which makes it interesting for me.
Yeah.
And I first saw it. Hans Weilenmann from the Netherlands. I kind of credit him with the fly. It's possible somebody did it before, but he's got amazing tying videos. If you guys, I wish he still did them. Gosh, I think 10, 12 years old, the videos, and still remarkable quality. And he's such a perfection tire. Just every single wrap is perfect on any of his patterns. And none of them are really complicated either. They just really, really good use of materials, and the quality of the materials, whether it's movement or color or texture, whatever, floatability, and it just kind of beautiful flies. So that's where I first saw it, and I've been using it as my go-to caddis pattern ever since, at least 10 years. Yeah, unless it's like really, really rough and tumbly water, I'll go more with like an elk hair caddis. It's got a little more float to it, or a Goddard, something like that. But this one for just about everything. It also, but for me, it works as a mayfly imitation. I know that seems a little weird, but it gets taken during mayfly hatches as well. And whether they're thinking it's a caddis and just going after it, or whether they actually mistake it for a mayfly, maybe a cripple, that could be as well.
Yeah, when you look at it profile wise, there isn't much difference between an emerging mayfly and an emerging caddis when the wings are first popping out. Mayfly has tails, but the fish notice if it has tails or not. I don't know, but I think you're right.
Yeah, and because of the way that the CDC is tied in, there are these little tentacles of it that come off, and you get all that surface area of those CDC fibers and the fibers that come off the fibers. I'm not sure of the exact scientific name. And those things, if you look at one of these CDC and Elks on the water surface, you can actually see the CDC tentacles or fibers sort of dimpling the water surface. Even in a glass of water, you can see it. And those things kind of move with the surface tension and look like something living to me. I believe it's where the true power of the fly comes from.
Well, they move. They're so fine. Yeah. They move with every little movement of current or air, and that's, I think, why most people think that CDC is so effective.
Yeah, and it's not a pattern you see in a whole ton of pattern books either, which is interesting to me. And it should be. I think it should be in everyone, but. Love the fly.
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to start today?
Sure. I think I got to get my stuff turned on here.
Don't forget to tell people what thread and hook you're using.
Yes, I will, Tom.
Okay, it's very important. We all need to know.
Okay, where are we? So we'll start with the hook. The Orvis 4641 dry fly hook. Importantly, a big eye dry hook. Real nice to have that expanded hook eye. And these are ring eye as well, which is super nice for this pattern in particular. Thread, I've got just tan, and this is 6/0 tying thread in tan. So I'm going to go everything. Boy, that looks a little overexposed to me. Oh, not bad. Yes. I'm going to start about halfway down the hook shank. No reason to start all the way up at the eye with this one. And just get my thread secured and snip off that excess tag. Should I keep going, Tom?
Yeah. Well, okay. You haven't shown me much so far, Flagler.
Why, thank you. Anyway,
at least you got that far.
for CDC, I'm going to use, it's just tan. Like everything on here is kind of tan, and I want to use one of these longer CDC feathers, not a CDC puff, but a nice long feather. Gosh, it kind of blends in with the skin. Anyway, the way I tie these in. CDC is slippery stuff. We talked about that in the CDC podcast. Beautiful long feather. You want a fairly long one for this. We're going to wrap it to form the body. But what I do is I'll come back here right at the base of the stem. And so I collect all those fibers. Actually, I'm going to keep on wrapping right back to the start of the hook bend. Didn't go far enough. So 2 wraps, and those are light enough wraps so I can pull this through. And you can see I'm kind of collecting the feathers as I go, the fibers as I go. I'm going to lose some right there where it pulls out. That's okay. Going to just get a little nubbin sticking out. Because it's so slippery, I'm going to pull these up and take a wrap or 2 around just the hook shank, put them back down, and do a couple wraps around those tips. That way that slippery feather really can't pull out. I think I nicked my tying thread just a little bit, but we can get that taken care of. Come up almost to the eye. Okay.
Should we take points off for him nicking his tying thread? What do you think, guys?
I think we should add points for me nicking the tying thread and pulling it off. Getting all the way back up there, that's it happens, and that's where I'm going to go with it. We'll leave the audience to judge that, though. So okay. I have my CDC feather nicely secured. My tying thread is no longer frayed. It's where I want it, and I believe it's your turn.
Okay, I just want to answer a question from Diane. Will these work on the Henry's Fork in July? Absolutely, Diane. These will work in nearly any trout stream in North America from about early May to November. And, and whenever caddisflies are hatching. Sometimes you even see caddis in April. So yeah, whenever there's caddisflies. And we're tying this on a size 16. Something I wanted to mention here is that most caddisflies look bigger in the air. I think because they're so fuzzy when there's so much movement when they fly, and we often misestimate. I know I do when I see a caddisfly in the air, and I say, "Oh, that's a size 14," and I'll catch one or I'll pick one up off the water, and it will invariably be a 16 or even an 18. And so I know a lot of people tie their caddisflies in 14. A lot of them, they'll work, but I think that more often than not, a 16 or an 18 is going to be better than a 14. Do you agree with that statement, Tim?
Absolutely. And I really like 18s and in particular. And that there are larger caddis species and that are definitely 16s. I'm thinking Granum caddis for one are that big, but like some of the fall caddis are definitely 18s and even 20s. They're small,
20s,
small, yeah,
very small.
And then of course big ones like the October caddis, that are back up to even 10s. They're very, very large bugs. So, but yeah, I think air on the side is smaller rather than larger.
Yeah, they do look bigger in the air. Okay, I'll start my thread. Oops, I don't want to give you a sneak peek of that. I'll put a hook in the vise. How's that? Is that a good start, Tim?
Yeah, that's a good start.
Okay.
Is that a different vise than usual, Tom? Or
yeah, I'm using the Renzetti Traveler, the inexpensive Renzetti.
Okay.
Yeah, just something different. I like the vise. It's not as adjustable as the more expensive ones, but yeah, it's a nice vise. It's good clearance, and it's a $150 made in USA lifetime vise. It's going to last you. It's going to last you all your life. So it's a nice vise to show people sometimes. And Tim's using 6/0 thread. I am using 12/0 thread. Yeah, I know I'm working with hair, but this 12/0 thread, I think is really strong, and I use it on all my smaller dries and nymphs. I can take more turns of thread. I don't have to worry about crowding the head, and I really like this 12/0 thread. And as I said, it's very strong.
Is that an Orvis 12/0 or like a uni thread?
Yeah, it's an Orvis. No, it's Orvis 12/0 thread.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm going to go, and I seldom, even when tying elk hair, break it. So I'm going to go all the way back to the bend, and I'm going to start it a little bit differently than Tim. First of all, you do need to sort through your CDC for this fly. So I'd advise you to dump a bunch out on a table somewhere. Don't sneeze because CDC will go all over the place. And like Tim, you're looking for a fairly long feather. I put this. I'm going to move this and put it on black. There, that's better. So you can see it better. So you want a fairly long, fluffy feather. And I also note that you need to be kind of careful of stem thickness, because if the stem is too thick on the CDC feather, it'll split. Like this one's thicker. And I've noticed that sometimes the stem will split. Do you notice that, Tim?
Yeah, I do. And even on this size, it depends on how you wrap it, but even on this size 16, fairly small hook, you're going to get into the thicker part of the stem a lot of times.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find one with a little bit thinner stem, but I still want a nice full feather. And again, you don't want to use a CDC puff on this. You want to use the longer feathers. And I'm kind of sorting through. This one looks a little short and the stem's no thinner. So I guess I'll go with this one here. But again, sorting materials is well worth it. And then I tie mine in a little bit differently. I come back and I stroke the fibers back until I have a little piece there. And then I wet it to tie it in. And I wet it just because it makes it a little easier to work with. So I don't slide it like Tim does. I just bring the tip right to the spot where I want it. Take about 3 nice tight turns, and then just like Tim, I lift this up, take a couple turns in front, and then bind it down. And then I'm going to go pretty close to the front. I see I got a couple fibers there that I'm going to cut out. Okay.
All right. My turn, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Do a little turn of the camera here, see if we can see what's going on. So I have the butt of the feather back here, and I'm going to reach in with my plunger style hackle pliers. Absolutely love them. And so I've got the butt of the feather, and I'm going to give just a little clockwise twist, and I'm going to start
not counterclockwise, right?
Not counterclockwise. And
always has to be clockwise.
I'm not really. Maybe one twist every time I go up. And I'm going to just see if I can do this camera wise. See if I can pull this off, pull this zoom off. There we go.
Clear image zoom.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, you taught me that.
And so as you can see, my stem's getting thicker, but I've got segmentation back here. These little fibers haven't started to come off just yet. Right up here, as I'm winding forward, more of them start to come off. And what I mean, they're just loose from the hook shank. So you can see that even there, that stem's getting fairly thick. And I think I'm going to stop there, which is okay for me. I have a good number of fibers coming off, which I really like. Ooh, that was close.
Oh.
Okay. And then I'm just going to sweep anything there and really lock that stem down on there about like that. And to me, it's these fibers, these little guys, and those little spiky things coming off the fibers that sit in the water's surface. And there's so many of them, and they're so small. That's where the surface tension comes in, and it actually helps it to float. Plus, kind of at the back of this, you've made almost a little segmented body by wrapping that kind of twisting and wrapping as you go. Really cool effect.
Yeah, it is.
And I'll stop there.
It's a little uneven. It bothers me.
What?
It just bothers me that the
those
CDC
things
is just, yeah, and it happens no matter what you do.
Yeah. I love that part of it. I really do.
Yeah.
And if there are any that are long, you can just kind of nip them off with your fingernail.
Yeah.
It's
I probably nip off more than you do because I don't like them quite as long. But anyway, we'll see how it goes.
All right.
All right.
Oh, where did that go?
Philip. Philip. Thank you. By the way, Julia isn't here today, folks. Sorry, we have Phil Monahan behind the camera, very ably putting up links and things like that. Oh, by the way, I didn't use a dyed CDC feather. I used a natural one. I don't worry a lot about colors of caddisflies. I tie almost all my caddis in kind of a neutral grayish tan. I don't think the color is that important in caddisflies, and the other reason is that I have my own CDC because I shoot ducks. I used to shoot a lot more than I do, but I have a lot of CDC, and it's all natural. So I just use natural CDC. It's kind of a brownish tan anyways. And I'm going to do the same thing as Tim. I'm going to grab the end of that feather with my hackle pliers and twist it just a little bit. And then wind that. And as Tim says, you want to twist it a little bit each time you go around. Get a little tighter here. Give it one more twist. And now I'm starting to get into the fibers, so you kind of stroke them back as you go. Sometimes you want to use a dubbing needle to kind of pick those out because they get bound under.
Ooh, that stem's getting a little thick.
I know.
Uh-oh.
I'm messing with fire here.
Uh-oh.
I got it.
Oh.
I got it. And I'm going to take a couple of good turns on this. And then you can see those are pretty long. So what I do is I kind of gather them all back and I just pinch them with my fingernails. You don't want to trim this. You want to break it. That just leaves the ends a little more non-uniform. So you don't want to trim it with your scissors, but you can take them and break them like so. And then I will come forward to make sure that stem is secure and then come back. Now I'm going to do something else. Do you mind if I put an underwing on this, Tim?
If you think it's necessary.
I do. This is what I do with mine. I take a smaller CDC feather and I tie it. I just take a couple loose turns in front and then I hold it up and pull it forward until it's just a little bit longer than the hook shank. Like so. And then I secure it. It just gives me a little bit more flotation under the wing, and also I think it gives me a little bit more of that fluffy stuff. So I don't know if you consider that cheating, Tim.
Well, I think we need to call Mr. Weilenman over there in the Netherlands, and I guess we'd probably wake him up at this point, but see whether that's copacetic or not.
Anyway, I like to put a little bit more CDC under the wing. So I just tie in an extra feather there.
Gotcha. Well, can I do a little extra something then?
Yeah, you may. You may do a little extra something.
Just a little something. This is kind of a, gosh, it's like a get out of jail free card on a lot of things. And it's before I'm tying down anything slippery on a slippery hook shank. As you can see here, we're going to be trying to tie, even though I have thread wraps, I understand that, but you know, right down on that little spot. And I just don't want it to slip. Also, I think that, you know, the bugs do have a thorax on them too. And, you know, why not build a little thorax? Anyway, what I'm going to do is kind of neat stuff, guys, is it's snowshoe rabbit foot dubbing. So some floaty characteristics. It's very natural. This color, this kind of just natural hairs here goes very well with this fly. I'm going to take some of the larger guard hairs out and get back. I'm just going to dub the thinnest little dubbing noodle on my tying thread. And to me, what this stuff does in most cases, I think I've done this before in another tie-off.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah, is just build up a little thorax, put my thread kind of right in the middle of that bump. And most of the time, it just keeps the elk hair wing from wanting to spin around the hook shank so badly. And, you know, it adds just a little bit of float there as well. That with that snowshoe rabbit puts a little more bulk at the thorax of the fly. Should I keep going, Tom? Is that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, we'll move on to the to the elk hair part of it, which elk hair is interesting stuff. And I was just out of the Denver fly fishing show, had a long discussion with some guys out there about elk hair. And you know, you have cow and bull elk, you have yearling elk, you have early season elk, later season elk, and so wide variety. Plus, you can get it different colors. You can get it bleached, everything like that. So
that's bull. That light color that you have there is bull elk.
That's the bull, yeah.
That's
and this
bull.
is
Yep.
This is the yearling, a little
Yep.
less coarse.
Yeah, and then that's the cow
this
there.
Stuff. Yeah, and you can kind of see the difference in coarse. Maybe you can. Yeah, they're just thicker hairs here. Anyway, I have a piece, and it's yearling elk, and I just like the, you know, when the fly is this small, you're using pretty much just the tips out here. That's the coloration, and the coloration is really nice, kind of a mottled color, but it's still going to flare the way you want it to. And anyway, less is almost always more with these wings. I've found it's pretty hard to go too light in terms of the number of hairs. And this is where teaching wise anyway, it's so difficult to describe to somebody how much hair, really of any kind, but just a small clump. I'm going to use a little, it's actually, I was going to say a flea comb. It's an eyelash comb. Please don't ask me why I have this.
It's a poodle eyelash comb, isn't it? I have one of those. I think it is. No, I think it is.
Really?
Yeah, I bought mine at a pet store.
So I have a very narrow mouse stacker. I shake my tying table as I do this. Open it up so I know all the tips are going that way. I don't have to flip them around in my fingers. I still feel like I've got a few too many fibers here, so I'm going to get rid of them. And I kind of have to feel with my right hand. That feels pretty good to me, and the tips are aligned. So I tie in these wings a little differently, I think, than most people. I'm going to want the tips just past the bend of the hook, not much further. But what I found, for me anyway, is I'm going to snip the tips off. I'm going to use the front edge of the hook eye as a guide and snip them off square. Hold that right there. Keep that measurement. Get my tying thread counterclockwise spin as if you're looking down on it. And then I go all the way around and around again. And then just brace back here with my index finger and pull. Okay. 1, 2 more. And then I pull everything back and get myself underneath and around the back edge of the hook eye. And for me, because I'm doing that, I'm pulling up or snipping those fibers off, I have a measured head length each time. I'm using the front edge of the hook eye as a guide, so I don't have to go in and trim off. And I find I just get much more consistency between flies that way, having that thing to measure. And should I whip finish, Tom, or hold off?
Go ahead. Sure.
Yeah,
why not?
might as
Why
well.
not, Tim?
Yeah. Not a real lengthy tie.
No.
I could still mess it up right here, though,
No, I think you're good. You're waiting for me to mess up.
And I found that if you don't want, like if you didn't use the dubbing and you don't want the head to spin, you can drive the thread down between those, these things, the little butt ends as you wrap, and that also holds it really tight if you don't want to do the dubbing thing. But, I really like the dubbing under there. I just think it works for me anyway. And as usual, I'm going to use a different method. Just because it's good for people to see a different way of doing it, and because I do it differently than you do. So, can I mention one other thing, Tom, just before I forget?
No, it's my turn. You can't mention.
Oh,
man. You're done.
Really? Come on,
Yeah,
just
go
one
ahead.
little thing. Little
Yeah,
bit.
Go ahead.
I don't use head cement on these because the head cement tends to run into the CDC Wicks head cement really badly, and I don't want that. I want to keep that CDC free and easy. That's all.
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to finish mine differently. I am going to use, I think this is a fairly fine piece of bull elk, and I like bull elk because I'm going to move this white piece of paper over here. I like bull elk because it's lighter colored. I find that because these caddisflies don't stick up that far above the water, they're often tough to see. And you often fish them in faster water. And I like the lighter colored elk hair. So I tend to go toward a lighter color. And I think it's one of the reasons that I put that CDC underneath, because it kind of hides the lightness of the elk hair, because caddisfly wings are often not that light. They can be light, but I like a lighter color, so I'm using. I'm quite sure it's bull elk, a very fine bull elk.
Tom, can I ask how long are those hairs? Was I using hair that was much longer than that?
Yeah. These are short. Short.
Yeah. That looks about an inch, where mine were real close to 2 inches, I think.
Yeah, and I saw a question from somebody about when do you know what kind of elk to use, and my answer to that is you really don't until you tie one. And when I tie something with elk or deer hair, I will pull 3, 4, even 5 pieces out of the drawer or out of the bag or whatever, and I'll try each one to see how they behave, because I don't think you can tell. And that's something about hair. If you're serious about tying with elk hair, deer hair, you need to have variety. You need to have a lot of different pieces, because every fly might use a slightly different texture of hair. You know, if you're tying comparadons, you want different textures. Tying elk hair caddis, you probably want different elk hair between the big ones and the little ones. So, you know, my advice to you is when you go to a show or a fly shop and you see a piece of hair that looks good or interesting, buy it. It's not that expensive, and you're gonna have lots of options when you're working with hair. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So I'm gonna, just like Tim, cut a fairly small amount of elk hair, and I'm gonna hold it by the ends, and I don't bother combing elk hair. It tends to clean pretty easily, so I just, you know, kind of flick it around with my finger, pull any short hairs out of there, stick it in my narrow mouth stacker. And it's a good idea also to have more than one size of stacker, because if you use a stacker that's too big, the hair is going to stick inside it and it's not going to come out easily, and it's not going to go in. And if you use a stacker that's too wide, the hair is going to get lost in there. So, you know, a couple sizes of stackers are also a good idea. I'm going to do the old tap, tap, tap. Pull it out. Grab the ends. I do switch hands. I know, I switch hands. If you're very careful and you fold it over like that, you can switch hands and still keep it aligned. You just fold it over in your finger.
But why?
Oh, I forgot. Huh? What?
But why?
All right. Now, you may be shocked, but I am going to put a drop of super glue on here. Just one drop, if I can get it. Just one little drop. It's not going to soak back into my CDC, but what it's going to do is it's going to help me seat this elk hair. The worst thing in the world is an elk hair caddis that's going to roll around after you catch a fish on it and not stay in place. And I find that putting the super glue on first, rather than putting head cement or anything on afterwards, helps keep it secure. And you can wait a couple of minutes, because you know, you can put the drop of super glue on, go and stack your hair and come back. It's not going to dry right away. And then I'm going to keep those ends long, but again, like Tim, I'm going to make it about just a little bit longer than the hook shank. And I'm going to come up and take and pinch, and I kind of wiggle my thread through there, put a fair amount of pressure on it, come up, wiggle again, come up and wiggle it until it really seats about 4 times, like so. And then to triple or double ensure that this head doesn't spin, what I do is I take about 1/3 of the hairs and I come in, and with 2 very firm wraps, I secure it. And then I take another 1/3. And these multiple tie-in points are going to ensure that that head never spins. Because you've got, you know, when you just secure an elk hair wing with one point of attachment, there's more of a chance for it to roll. But if you come forward and go through the hairs, you're going to have a much more secure wing. It's not going to roll. It's not going to come out, and it's not going to roll. And then I just come in and trim it. Sometimes a little tricky, but I just trim it like that. And what I should have done first and I forgot, is whip. I should have whip finished first while I had those hairs because I could pull the long hairs out of the way. But that's okay. That's the way I usually do it, but I didn't this time. I forgot. And then just sneak your whip finish under there. And we're done. And I don't put head cement on here either because I already got a drop of super glue on there. And that wing is never going to roll. It's not going to spin either way. And then I'll often take the fly out of the vise and just make sure I don't have any CDC fibers that are really super long, and I'll pinch them like so. Oh, there it is. Come in a little closer. Oh, so I guess it's time to do the roll, huh?
Yep.
The reveal.
I gotta zoom in a little bit here.
You ready?
Yeah. Oh, golly, behind.
I'm gonna zoom out. There.
I'm gonna zoom in.
Oh.
That's about right. Let me get real focused there, though.
Rotate.
So yeah, remarkably similar, but remarkably differently tied.
Philip, are we ready? Are we voting now?
I have put the link to the Google poll in the chat. So click the link and make your selection.
Okay.
And here's Julia's face for everyone who misses her.
Do we have to keep rotating?
I'm gonna just leave mine right about there.
All right. Me
That's
too.
a good angle. I cannot wait to start to fish these guys. Seems like it has been a long winter.
Boy, you're telling me.
We've been frozen up here in New Jersey, Tom.
Yeah, we have had ice and
Yeah.
You want to answer some questions while you wait?
yeah, let's answer questions.
There's a lot of questions and a lot of comments. Michael noted that Al Toth used to use a razor blade to trim those front hairs.
Al Troth.
Troth, yeah. Under what circumstances would you use the different kinds of elk? Cow, bull, calf. Is it just color differentiation?
Yeah, we kind of talked about that. If you want a shorter wing, generally I think bull is better. Cow and yearling or calf are better for I think larger flies like stimulators. But Tim's fly looks beautiful, and that's tied with what was that? Yearling? Tim?
Yeah, yearling elk. And to me, it's the range of colors that I got in those, from darker in close and then lighter and then a little darker out at the tips, just almost like a mottled wing on a caddis, which a lot of them have.
Yeah.
And it's still flared correctly. But again, I tested it, before this. I tested all of those patches that I showed you at the beginning, and this one I like the way it flared and I like the coloration. But like you said, Tom, you really have to have multiple. There's no definitive, use yearling here, use bull here. It's they're variable in terms of age and season that they were harvested and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Just like deer.
Yeah. I pulled
whitetail deer.
for for this fly, I'm looking at my fly tie. I pulled 5 different pieces to audition for this fly.
Yeah.
That's what I call it, auditioning a piece of deer hair,
Yeah.
or
So,
you
I have 4, but
yeah,
also
yeah. You just
deer hair will work too, guys.
Yeah, deer hair is fine for this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The reason we
Ken,
used
Ken
elk is
wants
it's
to
called
know if you'll tie this down to a 20.
I
Yeah.
will.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
that's where you're going to really need to sort your elk hair and you may even want to use deer when you go down to a 20. There's where you really need to get, some really fine elk hair if you're going to tie a 20 with this.
Yeah, I would go deer hair on a 20 personally, but
Okay. Yeah, I think I would too.
Mike wants to know if you put floatant on it.
I don't. I'm on the it's sort of floating. It's not liquid. I use Frog's Fanny for this one, and then if it's really wet, I'll if I catch a fish on it, I will rinse the fly. Absolutely rinse the fly in the water. Just shake it back and forth in the water. I have an Amadou patch, which you blot it with an Amadou patch or a piece of chamois just to absorb the lion's share of the water. Then I usually chuck it in one of those shake things with the little beads in it, and that gets more water off. And then I do give it a light touch with something like Frog's Fanny to really bring that CDC back around, but never a liquid floating for me.
Yeah, or paste. Yeah.
Yeah.
I typically with CDC flies, I don't do anything when I first put it on. I don't put any kind of floatant on because it floats pretty well until you catch the first fish or until you fished it for, 10 minutes or so. And then when it gets drowned, I will use, similar to Tim, one of the desiccant powders to refloat it. But I don't put any pre-floatant on CDC flies.
Yeah.
What about the
neither
dip?
do I.
Yeah, fly dip will work for this. Fly dip will work for CDC flies because it dries dry. It doesn't mat down the CDC. So fly dip works.
And will you ever use a dropper with this pattern?
For me, this isn't. I generally don't. I fish this solo. I guess you could if the dropper was small enough, but it's not a super buoyant floater. Like I'd be more inclined to use a dropper off the back of a Goddard or an elk hair, to be honest.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's more of a single dry. It's it won't hold up a nymph, maybe a little tiny zebra midge or something like that. But
Brian wants to know which floats better, deer hair or elk hair?
Ooh, boy, that would be.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
They're both pretty. They're both hollow. They're both hollow. Yeah. They're both pretty good. I don't know if I could answer that question.
But
Tom,
I think
you already said you don't care about the CDC color. Tim, do you?
I like the tan. I like it to kind of go with the body of the fly, just overall, color palette, I guess. And so tan, it just like with this one, it just kind of goes with the deer hair and as well as that little bit of dubbing that I used up to form the thorax of the fly. What I was going to say though is even between Tom's fly and mine, you can see the difference in hair thickness. The hair on his is much thinner than this, and so we were talking about smaller sizes. The hair Tom has would be much more appropriate for smaller sizes. I think this might be a little more hollow, and so might have a little bit more float, but you just can't tie real small with it. And that's just theory too, that the thicker the hair, the more hollow it is. I'm not sure that that's really true.
I think it probably is true. It's got more chambers, in it.
Okay, you ready for the big reveal?
No.
Yeah. I'm ready.
Should we switch back to our faces so we can,
Oh,
so
yeah.
we can see
So
crushing
people can see our
disappointment?
reaction. I have a feeling I know, but
It was awfully close by 54% to 46%. Tim takes it today.
Oh, yes. Thank
I
you.
thought he
Thank you,
would have
audience.
I thought he
You're-
would have whipped me a lot more than that. So I feel good about that.
No,
Congratulations, Tim.
Thank you, Tom. Those flies were remarkably close in look in the end, though. I mean, again, that we tie them as differently as we do, and that they come out that close is.
Yeah. Have you ever
It
used
showed you there's
antelope?
more than one way to skin a cat. That's the
Yeah. Antelope, Tom, is, antelope is so nice and fine, and I love it, but it's always got broken ends, and as you said, it's very brittle. And I wish antelope was a little bit stronger, because it would be awesome hair, but it's just not. It's just, and I so wanted to find a good piece of antelope for tying comparadons, because it compresses better. And I went out to a fly tying supply house and went through a bunch of antelope hides, and I could not find what I wanted. So yeah, it's not great stuff. What do you think, Tim? You ever found a good piece of antelope?
I have antelope that someone sent me, and like you said, you're absolutely right. But on, I don't think it was this fly. I think it might have been a comparadon that I was trying to do it with, and as I was tightening down, the thread cut right through the antelope, and it's just that brittle. I'm seeing from Blue Liner. There's a thing. Ever try a dubbing hotspot for the thorax? I've never thought of that one. That might be kind of interesting. Rather than that natural dubbing that I use, put a little bright orange or something like that underneath.
That's something to
idea.
try. That's
Yeah.
a good idea. Yeah, definitely a good idea. Thomas has been saving pieces of hair from deer he harvested this year. Did a mask. Oh, the mask is great for comparadons, Thomas. It's we used to Orvis used to sell whole deer masks for tying comparadons, because then you can get all kinds of textures and colors, and it's good stuff.
I was just told that out at the Denver show, a friend said for comparadons, he's using elk hawk for comparadons. And yeah, but I saw his flies, and holy cow, his flies are gorgeous.
Elk hawk is very stiff.
Yeah, but on teeny flies, like he was tying it, wow, perfect fan.
It's dark brown though, right?
No, he had light stuff. I guess it had been bleached.
Oh,
yeah, really pretty.
Yeah, I've got some elk hawk, but I never. I use it for tails on like Osable wolf and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but interesting.
I'll name drop it. It was Juan Ramirez, and he ties just Hopper Juan. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Juan, but I'm pretty sure you told me it was elk hawk, and just made. Gosh, they were 18s or 20 comparadons, spectacular looking little things.
I'll have to look into that. I'll have to look a little closer at the elk hawk I have too, and see if I can use it.
Yeah, I thought I had a piece of it. I can't find it anywhere though.
Just goes to show you can't have enough deer or elk hair.
No,
you can't have enough of it. You see a piece that looks decent, buy it. It's only going to cost you a few bucks, and it's going to be well worth it.
Yeah, some of the weirdest pieces I have turned out to be the very best too. Ones that I really didn't think were going to be right, and you tie with them, and you don't have to tie a full fly. You can really just kind of practice on it on an old hook and see if it flares correctly, and then most of the time you just undo the thread wraps. You can tell from that, and then try another little piece. It's also a good way to experiment with the amount that you want, rather than committing to a full fly. You kind of just take a clump, and if that's too much, you reduce it, and then go down from there to give you an idea of what that final amount should, first of all, look like, and second of all, feel like in your fingertips.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. All right, Tim. I don't think we have any more questions. I haven't seen anything.
This day's starting to come around for the Timster.
Yeah, a big win. A big win for Flagler.
Yeah, I think I dropped 2 in a row to you there for 2 or maybe even 3 in a row. So I'm
never 3 in a row. I'm
feeling pretty good about myself now.
Ken, I have some roe deer, and I find it to be a little coarse for doing something like this. But I've played around with it. I've never found a place where roe deer was better than elk or white-tailed deer. But there may be some fly where it works better.
What roe deer? What is
It's a European? It's a European deer.
Oh, okay.
I have pieces of Bliesbach and Impala, all kinds of African animals that Tires from South Africa sent me. Again, some of them I thought had potential, but I've never found anything better than white-tailed deer or elk. For what I do, for comparaduns and caddisflies and stuff, I just haven't found anything. All right, everyone. Well,
thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Those were great questions from all over the world. As you can tell, Tim and I enjoy these sessions, and hope you do. Next month, it's Tim's pick, and I don't think we have a date yet, but we'll.
What are we at?
No, I think we have a date.
Yeah, probably
or do we have a date? Maybe we do have a date.
Date, John?
Yeah, I think it's March. Oh, hold on. March 7th.
March 7th.
First Monday in March.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so back to Mondays.
And it's you're up.
Yeah.
You're up for the pick.
Yeah, don't know what it's going to be yet.
Okay.
Some of those suggestions we had last time were a little ridiculous, Green Highlander, and that's not going to happen.
No,
not going to.
We're not going to crowdsource this.
Yeah. Yeah, a game changer. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, guys. I tied a game changer live once.
Really?
Yeah, not with you. I tied one once. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you start out with gray hair or start out with black hair and it turned gray during that time, or?
I think I did it in under an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, neat flies though.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you next Monday. Forgot what I'm tying. I think it's a nymph. Might be a Duracell. I can't remember, but I think I'm tying a nymph next Monday. We haven't tied a nymph in a while, so anyway, we'll announce it. We'll announce it on the Facebook page and YouTube a couple days before. Oh, Phil, do you know what it is?
I think it's Tuesday, Tom.
Oh, it's Tuesday, right? Because Monday's a holiday. It's Tuesday, and it's at 4 instead of 3. Because I have
mark your calendars, people.
I have something I have to do at 3. So it's 4 o'clock on Tuesday, and I think it's a Duracell. Duracell nymph. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Guys. Appreciate it.
See you Tuesday.